Hello and welcome to the 15th annual LD Micro main event here in Los Angeles. I'm here with Dr. Marvin Hausman, co-founder and chief science officer of Precision Genomics, ticker symbol LUDG. Dr. Marvin, it's a pleasure to have you here. You and I had the opportunity to get together and have some conversations outside of the spotlight environment here. And you have some very profound and interesting things to talk about today. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about the company if you could share with our viewers.
Absolutely. Jonathan, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be interviewed by you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So tell us a little bit more about Precision Genomics so the audience at home has a better understanding of what the company is focused on.
Yeah, Precision Genomics is a division of Ludwig Enterprises. It was a communication company that wanted to move on to another line of business. And so they learned about a technology that I had developed using mRNA, messenger RNA, and I came up with the concept that there's a language in the body, that your chromosomes, which you inherit from your parents, are fixed. But you develop into an individual, that you're unique. And you differentiate into heart, lung, brain. So there's a language going on after birth. And that language is messenger RNA. DNA can't do much except bring you the genes of your parents and your lineage. It expresses itself through mRNA, which is a very small genetic particle that mimics parts of the DNA. To give you an example, if someone had a heart attack, or they think they're having a heart attack, they go to the emergency room or they go on an ambulance, they could have chest pain from trauma, they could have a viral infection, they could have had something else going on in their body at that time. So when you go to the emergency room, they take a blood test and they measure troponin. Troponin is a protein. It's released by damaged cardiac cells. But something had to manufacture troponin to give the structure, and that's messenger RNA. So the DNA sends the message to a cardiac cell saying mRNA produced troponin. And when the cardiac cell is damaged, troponin is released. And if it goes up a certain amount, they know you're having a heart attack.
Wow.
So that's a very simple approach to what we're doing. But we can actually take a snapshot, a signature of the body through a microarray of 48 mRNA genes. And then we could use medical intelligence, artificial intelligence, machine deep learning to look at that signature, that pattern that's in your body at that time. In fact, we're doing a study now in Boston at the Emerson Urology Associates with John Libatino, who's a urologist who I knew from years ago at UCLA. He's a transplant surgeon, and my background is also in kidney transplants at UCLA and Cedars Sinai Medical Center. And we're going to take snapshots using our microRNA, messenger RNA, of patients who come in who have urinary symptoms or have blood in their urine. And we're going to see, and we know that we know what some of them are, we're going to see what ratio of these markers, what's the indices related to these markers that can prove that that patient has bladder cancer. Then we're going to take that signature and that patient will be treated with an anti-bladder cancer drug if the biopsy is positive. And we're going to see what changes occur. And we're going to be the first company in the world to do that.
Wow.
We can do that with long COVID. COVID is an inflammatory disease. The virus comes into your body. That's why children have myocarditis. It causes inflammation of the blood vessel wall. It causes other symptoms, and that leads to long COVID problems, which you're familiar with. We think that inflammatory index can measure long COVID symptoms, and then we would know how to treat those symptoms because you could take nutraceutical compounds that point to that messenger RNA. Messenger RNA is a cytokine. It's an inflammatory marker. One of them is interleukin 10. I won't bore you with that. IL-10 or IL-6 or TNF-alpha. And we know, for example, that the ratio of IL-10 to IL-6 can predict recurrence of bladder cancer. That's dramatic. We also know that TNF alpha is higher in those who will develop cancer. So a lot of these diseases are silent. They're talking to each other in your body.
For years.
It's a silent language that's ongoing, because when you develop cancer, it's not from one day to the next.
Yeah.
Something happened 2 months ago, 4 months ago. There's a mutation, a cell mutation in your body, and our objective is to pick up that change early on through messenger RNA.
And from my very limited understanding, all this kind of evolved out of Craig Venter and the Human Genome Project, and understanding, if I'm not mistaken, that traditional mRNA was classified as junk DNA at one point, but then we actually discovered it was an intelligently written code, and the DNA was communicating not only inside the body, but with the environment as well. How many of these disease ailments that you see people suffer from are genetic versus environmental?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Whether it's genetic or environmental, I would say 90% of diseases are inflammatory in origin. Inflammation is the cause of most diseases. Just listen, itis, I-T-I-S means inflammation. Myocarditis, inflammation of the heart. Nephritis, inflammation of the kidney. Pancreatitis, inflammation of the pancreas. Arthritis, inflammation of the joint. It goes on and on and on. Even I'm working on autism through a company, Nova Mentis, and we're developing psilocybin for autism. Autism may be an inflammatory disorder, because women who are pregnant who have epilepsy and they get treated with an anti-epileptic drug called valproic acid, they develop autistic children.
Wow.
So, and pollution may be causing autism. So most diseases that are chronic are inflammatory in origin. And I think the basic way of attacking inflammation is through messenger RNA. These cytokines are pro-inflammatory molecules. They cause disease. For example, long COVID. And then maybe we can get into my background as a transplant surgeon at UCLA and my research at NIH. But long COVID is an inflammatory reaction. The virus is treated with a vaccine, or you're treated with a vaccine. Your immune system attacks the virus. But now we have evidence that the viral particles are impregnating the wall of the blood vessel, and that leads to clotting disorders. So people are dying of pulmonary embolism who have recovered from COVID. They're having problems with their lungs. That's the whole breathing problem. When you go and have COVID, they do a CT scan of your lung to see if your lung is collapsed and do you have any kind of clotting disorders. And we're now seeing long COVID. We think our mRNA program can take a snapshot of people with symptoms of long COVID and actually show you what are the molecules that are wrong and causing long COVID, and perhaps treat you with nutraceutical supplements. We're also developing nutritional supplements that target IL-10, target IL-6, target TNF alpha. Something like alpha lipoic acid, which a lot of your listeners probably take, targets some of these cytokines.
Absolutely. And
vitamin D targets cytokines.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of vitamin D myself. I think it's one of the most underrated supplements on the market right now. And I know you and I in conference yesterday had a little bit of conversation around your concerns about these new synthetic mRNA vaccines being developed, how they've been rapidly rolled out to the population. Obviously, for those looking at the VAERS CDC data, there's a lot of troubling data that's coming out now. What are some of your concerns about this technology, how it's being used? We were originally told that it would stay at the injection site, but we're now finding out it's penetrating cell walls, it's going throughout the body, it's aggregating in reproductive organs and in the brain. What are some of your concerns around this technology?
Well, if you think about it, the virus is mRNA. COVID is an mRNA. A virus doesn't have DNA. The virus grabs your cell or infects your cell and captures or takes over your DNA. And that's how it grows. The virus has to use human DNA to produce other viruses. You then produce an mRNA vaccine based on the structure of the mRNA virus. You inject it and you have an immune response. I think the jury's going to be out on this still to see whether there are any side effects with mRNA. Now there is evidence that there's a microcoagulopathy that you recover. I think I mentioned a little while ago that you recover from the COVID, but that particles of COVID still remain in your body, even though you don't have an active infection, and they impregnate the wall of your blood vessel, the endothelium, which is the inner lining of your blood vessel, and they cause an inflammatory local reaction that leads to a clotting disorder and closes off the blood vessel. And children, they're saying now that if you're age, 8 to 17, that you have an increased risk of coagulopathy and myocarditis.
Yeah, the Surgeon General of Florida recently put out a statement that he advised against childhood vaccination with this new mRNA technology because of that specifically.
Yeah, I got injected with the Moderna twice. I had the vaccination, then I had a Moderna booster. Then I decided, as an immunologist, in my background, I did immunology at NIH, I want to get another booster. So I went and got the Pfizer booster. And I still ended up with 2 COVID infections.
Wow.
But maybe I recovered faster because of my immune status. Mm-hmm. And so I just went recently and got a flu vaccine because I figured I'm going to stimulate my immune system. And if you have more policemen on the street, you're going to catch more criminals.
Yep.
So I'm going to wake my immune system up with the flu vaccine.
So this is obviously
It's a war. It's a war.
It is a war.
Yes.
So it's obviously a very contentious subject also. Give us a little bit about your background, NIH. So you mentioned you worked with Dr. Fauci at some point. Give us a little bit of background to the
audience. Work with Fauci. I was there when he came there also, a long time ago. I had my MD degree from New York University School of Medicine. I then was a general surgeon at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. And I was drafted into the Marine Corps in Vietnam. And then I suddenly got a letter from NIH saying, because of your work in transplants, I helped develop some parts of the HLA system, how you type people for transplants. They said, would you like to come to NIH? And I wrote a letter to the Secretary of the Navy, and I got referred to NIH.
Wow.
So I got transferred to the Public Health Service and had a high rank. I used to go to the White House, in fact, when Nixon was president. And I discovered these inflammatory components of the complement system that cause the macrophage, the killer cell, to attack cancer cells and attack bacteria. And from there, I was invited to go to UCLA. It was one of the top urology programs in the United States. And I then developed a product called BCG when I was a resident at UCLA, which is a vaccine for tuberculosis. And I was the first to show in 1975 that you can use it as an anti-cancer agent for kidney cancer and bladder cancer. And that launched my career. I did work for Bristol Myers developing antibiotics. I had a company on the New York Stock Exchange called Medco. We then developed one of the largest selling antidepressants in the world, Wellbutrin, for the Wellcome Foundation. We then developed our own drugs, and we were acquired by King Pharmaceuticals in 1998. And my indication is now part of Pfizer. So I think I've done well, but I'm very excited today to be invited by Ludwig through their acquisition of this technology that I developed, because I think we have a signature that we can take a snapshot of your body at a moment in time. And then we can look at that snapshot and develop an inflammatory index for you at this moment.
Wow.
And then maybe you have symptoms, come back 6 months later, when it's still silent, do another snapshot and look at your inflammatory index. Is it increasing or is it decreasing? And everybody takes vitamins. Everybody takes supplements. Do you know if they're working? It's a subjective response. You think, well, I feel better
today. Healthy.
I slept better last night. What if I could show on your inflammatory index that this improved?
So how far away are we from this becoming mainstream? Like I can go and get a snapshot of my my genome and
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So we've collected now, because I was doing this before COVID, started 5 years ago. So we've collected about 1,000 mRNA samples from the cheek. Inside the simple thing, you take a Q-tip or a cotton tip swab, you
Inside of the cheek.
yes, left side, right side, put it in a container, send it to the lab. We then capture your RNA. We have to measure how many nanograms of our RNA. And it uses Thermo Fisher technology, a large genetic
Big
company.
company. Yeah.
We then convert it, we make it into a library, genetic library. We then convert the RNA to DNA, and we measure the DNA because that's where the RNA came from.
Wow.
So we can do you send us a swab, within 7 days, we can send you back your RNA index.
That's amazing. And what would people have to do to get this done? Do they just go to their practicing physician, or where would they go?
Well, you're going to hear a lot more about this. We're doing the first large bladder cancer study at Emerson Urology Associates with John Libatino in Boston. We just submitted the protocol, which I wrote to an IRB called Advara. It's the largest IRB in North America, Institutional Review Board, and they give you ethical approval, and we're launching that in bladder cancer. So we're going to know within 6 months how accurate this program is in diagnosing bladder cancer before you even know you have bladder cancer.
Wow. And what's your immediate vision for the company right now and in the next 4 or 5 years?
To do the bladder cancer study right away. And then we've developed a nutritional program called Cyto 20. 20 very unique supplements. And we know from the literature, the world literature, what cytokines each supplement works on.
Wow.
And that is part of a patent that we just filed. So not only are we going to measure your index, but we're going to release, and we call it My RNA for Life. My RNA for Life. And we're going to release that in the next 30 to 60 days. So when you have your inflammatory index measured, you can measure your My RNA for Life supplement, how it responds. Because we have your signature, you then go on the supplement and measure your RNA 6 months later.
That's fantastic.
I think it's this is exciting.
It's a game changer.
I think so.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience or investors before we close out? Any new exciting announcements that you'd like to share or are able to share with us?
Yeah, what I'd like to say is, look, I'm 81 years old. I've been at this game a long time. You come into the world with your name, and you leave with your name. You take, the pharaohs tried it, everybody's tried it. You can't take much with you, right? Yep. But if I could leave a legacy for healthcare, if I can leave a discovery where I've helped people with breast cancer, which is devastating. My wife just came down with breast cancer, so I have it at home. And my mother-in-law has breast cancer. Life is not a straight line. Life is curving. Mm-hmm. And we have to be our own advocates. So if I was to promote something, I would tell your listeners in the world, be your own advocate for health care. Because you can't call a doctor anymore. Have you tried recently? With COVID, they don't answer the phone.
Yep.
You've got to be your own advocate. Learn and read and let your body be your guide. I'll give you an example where I'm excited now about helping people. Preeclampsia is a devastating problem. Women who are pregnant die of preeclampsia. My daughter called me the other day. She's the head of maternal fetal medicine at Woodland Hills Hospital. And she said, Dad, are you aware that we have about a 20 to 25% increase in admission of preeclamptic women to the hospital since COVID? And I started doing some literature search, and it's true. And we now see that even vaccinated people may have an increased incidence of preeclampsia. At 20 weeks of age, increase of blood pressure, the life of the child is threatened, the life of the mother is threatened. You go to the hospital, IV therapy, you may have to deliver the baby to save the baby and the mother. What if we can diagnose that early?
Yeah.
So I've now We're going to be reaching out to doctors who take care of preeclamptic women, and I would like to use our mRNA index and measure symptoms in women who are pregnant who have increased blood pressure. Mild increases, not where it's severe. Can we get a genetic signature that identifies those women who will be threatened with severe preeclampsia? That would be unbelievable if I could accomplish that.
For everybody out there, again, the company is Precision Genomics. I'm here with Dr. Marvin Hausman. It's been an honor hearing your story. Thank you so much. We look forward to following along.
Yeah, Precision Genomics is a name I came up with. We made it a division of Ludwig because people, when they hear Ludwig Enterprises, don't know what our technology is. Precision Genomics says it what it is. And we're looking to be a successful company. We're looking to uplist on NASDAQ. We're looking to raise money. And we want this available to everybody. And we want people to understand how to take care of their lives. And that would be my pleasure and my honor to contribute that to mankind.
Thank you for sharing that message.
Sounds wonderful, but I mean it.
We need more voices like that. Thank you.
I think outside the box. That's very important.
It is.
Very important.
Yeah, I think a lot of groupthink has happened in the last few years, and it's been a hindrance to actual scientific discussion, debate, and finding answers to things. So I think, if you disagree with someone, you don't silence them or censor them. You have a conversation about it.
Very important thing you just said, yes. I was told by my mother, there are no stupid questions, only stupid answers.
Exactly. Thank you again, Dr. Hausman.
Pleasure meeting you. Thank you for your interview. Thank you.